Hi, this is my Barriers to Web 2.0 Module 5 for AEP 800. Within this module, there were a bunch of different articles that we had to read. And so the first article that we had was Barriers to Using Web 2.0 in the 21st Century. So some of just my thoughts and reflections on this one was more about the time restraints and what can kind of hold us back from using technology. So the things that I had mentioned on this slide were, like I said, time restraints. A lot of the times for me in my second year of teaching, I've seen great ideas and I have ideas about using technology and incorporating that with the different subjects and having it be more hands-on with my students, but familiarizing myself with the different websites and apps that are available and then having those set times where students are allowed to do that without having to worry about pull-out time and things overlapping. I think that's where it gets kind of chaotic and I lose the interest in it because of lack of timing, lack of training, just things like that kind of get in the way that I shouldn't let get in the way. But that are, I mean, they're there. And then for my own school district, we have passed down Chromebooks from the high school to our elementary levels. So with me teaching second grade, our second graders have some used Chromebooks. So, and the few iPads that we have they're no longer being updated. So it's just hard to stay on top of the advancements in technology when we haven't upgraded our own systems. The next in article I read, so 7 common barriers that obstruct tech adoption in education. So for this one, my own district thankfully doesn't have any expectations for our elementary level with implementation of technology. So for some students, they're using it often because they have it in their classroom, and then for others, it's seldomly used just because of not having updated technology and hands-on things for the students. For our 6th through 12th grade, we do have one-to-one Chromebooks, so those students are able to take those Chromebooks home, and there are explicit expectations for those students at the middle and high school level. Unfortunately, our elementary school is just not to that point yet, but we do have plans in the future, especially with the adoption of the Gemini project, that hopefully will bring more technology, more up-to-date technology into the classroom where we can start having expectations for students. In the digital divide article, there was some shocking things in there that even prompted conversation pieces between my colleagues and I, just because it's crazy that my own school that I teach at now is a lower SES school, and even then thinking about some of the stats with this article and how it could relate to my own students in my classroom and their home lives, it was just it was interesting. So I think this specific one brought into perspective for me the amount of people that don't have internet and aren't able to access school related things at their home. I think I looked at it as, oh, a ton of people have that. Well, technically, they may have it on their phone with that, but their kids aren't able to use their phone for internet. So I think that kind of surprised me with that. And again, with second grade, I don't have to worry too much about being able to have the internet and technology at home for homework because we don't have one-to-one Chromebooks or anything like that. And my students aren't, even if we did, they wouldn't be able to take that laptop to and from school and home. So there's just different things that some of these articles proposed that weren't necessarily related to my own classroom, but it did kind of open my eyes to this. This next one, open educational resources. Having things be cost efficient is huge. I know that our high schools and middle schools have not had to purchase as many textbooks because of the Chromebooks being there. Students are able to use those all the time, and so rather than having to print pages and pages off, a lot of the students' assignments are electronic, and then their readings are electronic as well, so it's helping eliminate funding for those kind of purposes. Then for the other resources that we do use, like I had mentioned, our technology isn't, we don't have explicit expectations for communication and things like that. So the teachers are able to kind of pick and choose what they'd like to use. So for instance, I used ClassDojo, and that's one that I listed on here. And I know other teachers are using Remind, and those kind of apps are synced up to where on your phone, on your computer, you can check them, and it'll keep you up to date on what's happening with the student and their life in the classroom. This next slide, do you feel the digital divide can be resolved? So this is my own personal thinking. I don't see this being resolved in the near future. This is just something that I think, especially like I had mentioned with the lower SES families around the school that I teach at, this is not something that I can just see the government allocating for families or anything like that. So I'm sure in the future, yes, it will, but within the next couple of years, I don't foresee that happening. And only just because families don't have the access to internet, and that's not necessarily a priority to them when they're trying to think about keeping the utilities paid so that they can have water and things like that. I could also see this if the government did kind of interfere where they were providing this service for people, especially like with work or technology in education. I could see this maybe happening, but having to monitor that so that it's used properly would be extremely difficult in governments, would be a whole nother situation and a topic. But my answer overall is that I don't necessarily see this being resolved within the next couple of years. So this next one, what skill sets do you feel 21st century students must acquire prior to graduation? This is a big one for me. We get these kind of questions often throughout the school year, and I know that I have thought this, I've been guilty of thinking about this multiple times, because as a second grade teacher, I think prior to graduation, they still have how many years of schooling left? Well, that's not necessarily it. It's the steps that they can acquire to get there, and I have to remind myself about that. So the ability to problem solve is huge. Fortunately, our school has really integrated STEM learning and problem-based learning in their classrooms. So students are being presented with a problem and there's not always an answer for that. So I think being able to problem solve and then learning that failure will happen is a huge part in the learning process. Also with our own class, especially like second grade, personality skills and professional skills, learning how to make eye contact, properly shake their hand, those are things that students, especially with technology nowadays, are lacking those skills because they have that screen in front of them, or communication is all through phones or technology rather than face-to-face. Another skill I think is collaboration and creativity. I believe those are essential. I think you need to have a creative mind, especially in this day and age. You can't just be run-of-the-mill. There has to be something that can kind of set you apart from others. And I think students are seeing that more so too. And we're seeing that with the integration of STEM learning and then just being able to have hands-on things for our students. This next slide, what impact has the global economy had on your personal use of the internet? My own personal use, I know that I have a cell phone and my laptop and I use those every day. There's various apps on there. I will say I don't have a whole lot of educational apps on my phone. I try and keep my phone kind of away out of my classroom life. So I do have my ClassDojo app on there, and that allows me to communicate if there was an emergency. Sometimes parents let me know the night before that their child's not going to be there, or arrangements need to be made, so that kind of does help. But I also have streaming services. I have my Wi-Fi. My picture up there is basically exactly what my TV looks like. It's just the apps, and I can stream stuff on there. So that's a huge part of my life, and I know that even with talking with my colleagues and the students that I teach, that regardless if they have internet or not, they do have access to some kind of streaming or video games, because they are prevalent in even the second grade room. This next slide, what technology training do you still need to effectively integrate into your current position? For me personally, I know I need to learn more about the apps and services that are appropriate for my own class, like my Dojo app. I know I have said that. There are so many features on there that I haven't even familiarized myself with yet that I know that the students would absolutely love, but it's just a lack of time and lack of resources for my own teaching style that I'm not able to do that with my students. Sorry, I'm covering some of those words. The other part is guided instruction. I would love to be able to not have to just sit by my computer for certain tasks. I like to use, we have a BrightLink, which doesn't have the smart board. It's just this little screen at the bottom, kind of like a sensor. And I use that every day in my teaching, but there are certain times that I have to sit at my computer to be able to move things back and forth. And that's the part that's unfortunate. I like to have free range of my classroom, and sometimes I feel restricted. Is my school or district equipped with the 21st century technology? I think certain schools are. I believe that our high school and middle school are taking the steps to have every student properly equipped with updated technology. I think our elementary schools, because there isn't such a priority for our younger ones to have technology in their hands, that we're getting overlooked and we're not being able to use the advancements in technology that we should. Just like having an iPad, I feel like that's something that almost all schools have and students are using constantly. And with ours, there's no way we can update it. The district has kind of said they're yours. You can use them however you'd like in your classroom, but don't expect anything to change on them because we're done with them. So that's kind of frustrating. So there's just certain things within our district that could be changed. This next one, advantages of innovative practices. This can be just ranging, like from my class, learning at the beginning of the year how to log on and remember your passwords and being accountable to remembering things like that. The fluency of logging on, getting ready, typing, anything like that, I think helps students, especially you're taking a controller out of their hand and they're learning actual skills that could help them in the workforce. Disadvantages that I see, it's more screen time. No matter what, if you put a student on a computer, Chromebook, iPad, whatever, they are immediately thinking, oh yes, this is fun, because they're so used to having technology at home as a game. So I think having to make that transition between this is school, this is for learning, this is not for you to play. There are those times that it can be, but not right now. So, and that kind of goes hand in hand with the social skills, because they're doing that at home all the time. And if they are given that in the classroom, they're lacking those skills, those face-to-face things that they need. And then also trying to monitor them. I know students are always wanting to be on YouTube, and there's so many things on YouTube that are not school appropriate. So just trying to keep that in mind. This last slide is if I've ever experienced problems with cyberbullying. Fortunately, in second grade, I have not. I know that students get together on like gaming sites. They've talked about sharing usernames, and that's in second grade, but there have not been issues of that. However, when I was in high school, I know that there were things on Facebook that people had put, and it never seemed to escalate more than maybe just saying a rude comment about someone. But I do see this, especially with younger kids being able to have access to the internet as much as they do now. I do see this maybe being more prevalent in the next couple of years. Thank you for watching.